Welcome, everybody. It's episode 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 of the Severe MMA podcast. My name is the Pod God, Sean Sheehan, joined today by the tripartite of Irish MMA media, Ian O'Neill.
Yes.
On Ireland.
What started the day? What started the day for me over here? It was unreal.
They're the perfect team, right? Because if they lose, I don't really care at all. And if they win, I get all the joy. It's like rugby or something, you know. It's absolutely fantastic.
A staunch supporter, Shawnee, now for the last number of years. I was.
Really?
Not really. No, I'm jumping firmly on the bandwagon now after we've suddenly turned into a somewhat good team over the course of the last 3 games.
4 days. Not even 3 games.
I like spending all of my time because the World Cup is in Mexico, US, and Canada.
Oh, it's in Canada as well? I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, like, you know, we're kind of... I'm going to go... Like, they're holding games in Toronto and Vancouver, I believe, in Canada. Like, I was planning on like, honestly, I was like, Ireland, they're never going to make it. I'm going around telling everyone, I'll head over to Vancouver. Ireland are not going to make it. They're shite. But now, heads are turning. I think they probably, if they qualified, would be going down to Boston.
Nice.
So I'd say I'd be substituting Vancouver for Boston and getting down there to just be there. I don't know whether I get tickets or not because tickets are absolutely astronomical right now. So
I had to check the dates today to see if it was clashing with the wedding, and thankfully it isn't. So that's a good thing.
July anyway, isn't it?
Yeah. So don't give away the date now because I'll have another fucking death threat again if I.
Yeah.
It's all right. Oh, also, before we start here, welcome everyone. This is hopefully on video. We've been on video for the last few weeks. We've had a slight few technical issues before we started. So if you're listening to this, we definitely have the audio, but there's probably a 65 to 90% chance that we also have it up on Twitter and YouTube. And if you'd like to sign up to our Patreon, patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast, you can get it on early access on Patreon as well, including the video, which you will get early access to as well. But with that all said, let's get into the mixed martial arts. And obviously we had one of the biggest cards of the year on Saturday night. UFC 322 went down from the venerable Madison Square Garden in New York. And on paper, this was a lot of people called it the card of the year. In practice, it was a pretty good card up until the last 2 fights, which were I wouldn't call them bad fights, right? Because they weren't bad fights. They were just one-sided, massively one-sided fights. It was a great performance in each of those fights, but not exactly great fights, you know, you know. It's like when you watch a team win 9-0 or something. It's like, well, like, it wasn't a competitive match, but it wasn't exactly a 0-0 draw either, you know, one of those. So I think that's what we had in these 2 fights on Saturday night. And I think we should talk about the main event first, Isam Makhachev versus Della Maddalena, because, you know, we broke it down when this fight was first announced. We talked about it a couple of times last week, Ian, myself and yourself. And I feel like, you know, when we get closer to the fight sometimes, like last night with Belal Dariush, we'll get to that in a second. I literally text you the second the fight was starting to go, oh no, he's going to get knocked out. And then like 15 seconds later he did. But sometimes that happens. You think, oh, it's going to go one way. Then the fight's about starting, you see them alongside each other and like, oh, I got this totally wrong. And then other times, like you think about a fight when it's 3 months away, you're like, oh, this is what's going to happen. Then you kind of watch more. You kind of change your mind a little bit. But the first thought you had turned out to be right. And I think my first thought on Della Maddalena versus Isam Makhachev definitely turned out to be right. Although having said that, I went away from it a little bit, but I mostly stuck to it. I was never picking against Isam Makhachev or anything. But overall, Ian, rather than what did you think of the fight, what were your levels of shock with how it played out? Because this was as one-sided, and it wasn't even a beatdown. It was just a better mixed martial artist just taking another mixed martial artist title off him over 5 rounds without basically taking a punch and with easy.
Yeah, my I didn't think it would be as easy for Islam. I thought that Jack Della Maddalena would have offered, maybe a little bit more takedown defense. But I think what Islam did very, very well in the fight was that, I had kind of said in the preview that Jack Della Maddalena doesn't want to get his back close to the fence. He could get taken down there. But I think Islam did exactly the opposite, really. I think what he did was he kept the fight in open space and he fought at distance to take away Jack Della Maddalena's boxing. And he was able to kind of level change and feint for the takedown, which also took Jack Della Maddalena off of his game. And then the shot came from very far out, which is hard to counter. And it was super quick. And Jack Della Maddalena simply had nothing for it. It was a single leg almost every time, grabbed it, turned the corner, took the fight to the ground. And my level of shock was not like... I kind of get what you were saying. I done the same myself. We kind of overthink things, I think, as the fights are getting closer and you're like, this could happen and that could happen. But, the outcome of that fight in the main event last night was the most likely outcome that was ever going to happen, really, when you think about it. And, my lack of surprise, my lack of shock, it dwindled as soon as I seen how easy the takedown was got in after about 2 minutes into the first round.
Yeah, it's like sometimes as well. It's funny, the examples I'm going to use here are all like Team Nurmagomedov, like Islam, Usman Nurmagomedov against Paul Hughes, but in other fights as well, and Umar. Like you look at all those three guys and you go, oh God, that guy probably has better striking, than we think, and this guy can win a 3-round or 5-round fight when it's striking, and like he's fighting a striker, and he's probably going to go for a couple of takedowns, but like in all likelihood he's going to win this fight kind of wherever he wants to win it. But like then we think, oh, how can the other guy win? Whether it's JDM or Peter Yan or whoever it might be, or Paul Hughes or whatever the case might be, and then we see those fights. And not all fights now, but the odd time. Umar's last fight was this way, and obviously this one on Saturday night with Isam Makhachev. They just go out and they're like, well, I'm just going to set up a takedown, take you down, and win the fight. And it's as simple as that sometimes for guys like that. And for Isam Makhachev to do it at the with the ease of which he did it was amazing. Because like this is a very, very simple fight to analyze, really. Because what we have here, and I tweeted out there, I saw someone saying it like, something was wrong with Jack Della Maddalena. Like, did he pick up an injury? Did he come in with an injury? He very well might have picked up an injury in the fight, but he picked up an injury in the fight because he was getting destroyed. Let's be honest here. And if he did pick up an injury in the fight, it was caused by Isam Makhachev. But the simple part of this is the analysis that I gave a while back, and we were talking about even during the week. Jack Della Maddalena is not a top 5 welterweight in the world. I think that's been proven now. And Isam Makhachev might be the best fighter in the world. So this is a very good fighter. There's no doubt Jack Della Maddalena is a top 10, top 15 welterweight in the world. If you're to put all the welterweights together in the UFC, it definitely a top 10, probably top 6, 7 welterweight, if not the 4th, 5th best welterweight in the world. But he's not the best. He's definitely not the best. And before we even get into the fight, I think it might be worth it. Like, there's a tiny bit of revisionist history, but I think it's a good time to do the revisionist history. Like, Leon Edwards won the belt while being like a good kind of middle of the road fighter who's very skilled, and then he won it obviously against Kamaru Usman in the fight he was losing. Got a real pick me up after that by beating him again. He won another fight, didn't he? Was it Colby Covington he won? And then obviously the downward spiral came to what we saw last night. We'll get to that in a while. Belal Muhammad took the belt off of him. And again, Belal Muhammad, another very good fighter, but Jack Della Maddalena showed that he's very, very beatable. And then Jack, another guy who was shown last night that he's very beatable as well. Now, very beatable is tough. There's 3 to 4 to 5, 6 170 pound or less fighters on planet Earth that can beat that man, right? But when you're fighting Isam Makhachev. So what we've had over the last while is 3 guys probably on like a similar level after Kamaru Usman, who got head kick knocked out. And I'm not saying this is a lucky kick or anything like that, but it was a mesmeric kick. It was unbelievable. He changed his whole career in that night. Now maybe Usman is coming back and he'll have an Indian summer to his career, but that moment changed the welterweight landscape, because what we've had for the next while is guys maybe on a similar level who are not the level of a George St. Pierre, a Kamaru Usman, right? Or even maybe, let's say if Shavkat had fought Leon Edwards after Usman beat him and held the title until now, then we might have talked about a different level of fighter at welterweight in the last while. And again, you might think this is revisionist history, but I don't think it is. I just think all of those lads are good top 10 fighters, but they're not Isam Makhachev. They're not the guys that have gone to that next level. And who, like, will there be someone else who does that? Like, will it? Well, obviously, Ian Garry, we're going to see him next week against Belal Muhammad. He'll prove a bit in that, just like Jack proved the last time when he beat Belal Muhammad. Carlos Prates and Ian Garry had an unbelievable fight. Ian Garry and Shavkat had an unbelievable fight. Obviously, Morales, will get to him as well. What a win he had to go to 19-0 last night. So there's a lot of contenders for the guy who can go to that next level. But I think, to sum up that fight last night, and I don't know if you disagree with me or not, maybe some people do, but like what we had last night was a very, very, very good fighter fighting one of the greatest fighters we've ever seen in the sport. What do you think?
I think you're spot on. I was watching the fights with a couple of friends last night, and I was just kind of saying, look, there's levels to this, like, and the levels were on show last night. And I think, and also having some conversations there, I think I was saying, and I'll say it here now as well, I think like Islam's tougher tests are going to come in the welterweight division. There's no doubt that the welterweight division is in a state of transition and has been, I think, for the last couple of years. So, but it's in a very, very good state right now, because the up and coming fighters that we have, all that you just mentioned a couple of seconds ago, are all coming, and they're coming at a good time for Islam Makhachev as well. I would say the majority of the fighters that are up and coming as well probably haven't hit their ceiling, or will not hit their ceiling as a fighter for the next couple of years. So it's actually, we always say timing is essential for success sometimes in mixed martial arts. And the timing of Islam's move up to the welterweight division is looking quite good now in terms of the test he had to face to win the title, the tests that he will have to come, and they will be tougher tests, that will be coming. But when you're going out there and you're performing the way he performed last night, it's very, very hard to see anybody taking that title off of him for the next couple of years. I think, we can talk about his wrestling. I think his striking is massively underrated. I think, the times that they were on the feet last night, he outstruck Jack Della Maddalena. It landed some big leg kicks, defensively sound, and obviously the aura that he can produce inside that cage that turns his opponents into different fighters in a negative way is something that only special fighters have, and he definitely has that.
No doubt about it. I might just quickly run through the fight here in case people hadn't seen or not. I'm lucky I took notes, to be honest, because a lot of those rounds turned into very same, and these are very quick notes. So, like, the fight started, obviously Islam is a southpaw, and Jack is more of a switch stance fighter, but he came out very much as a southpaw to start this. Came out fast, tried to push Islam back. As we talked about in the previous show, we thought that would be his key to victory, and honestly, I stick by that. I think that would have been the best way for him to win the fight, but there was no way for him to win this fight. Makhachev just waited in that first round and just allowed Jack to kind of come forward, defended, come forward, defended, come forward, and 2 minutes in, he took him down. And that was it. That was the end of that round. He got on top of him. There was a bit of striking into the clinch to start the second. Jack made a terrible mistake by judo throwing him. And then he went for an armbar, which they didn't call on commentary, but he was definitely going for the armbar. And I'm thinking, oh my God, this guy has listened to Craig Jones and thinks jiu-jitsu is real. And I'm like, this is, So he ended up in bottom and got absolutely smashed. That was the closest one to a 10-8, I think. Round 3, it was better on the feet at the start. But again, takedown halfway through. JDM went for a leg, and this was even worse than the armbar. I'm like, what are you doing here? You're going for a fucking leg lock against Isam Makhachev, and he didn't even go for it. He was just trying to hook the. I don't know what he was. It was honestly a tad embarrassing at that stage. You're thinking, like, I saw Ian Garry tweeting, this guy was completely unprepared or something like that, and like this, it wasn't that he was unprepared. I just think he prepared in completely the wrong way. But the fourth round, Jack was just waiting. So this turned in now to a guy who was coming out, going all out to try to put someone under pressure or knock them out, to a guy who didn't want to throw his own shots, taken down after 2 minutes. And I thought the fifth round was one of those ones where your corner goes, you have to go out, you have to knock him out, you have to do this, you have to do that. And he goes, all right, I'm gonna really try. And it was kind of like a faux effort, for want of a word. And he had the fight beaten out of him, so you can't blame him. Takedown in 20 seconds, fight over. So that was really the run through it. Am I over egging it in on the armbar attempt and the leg attempt? Because to me that was not even a sign of a desperate man or like a bad fight or anything like that. That to me was a sign of a guy who just prepared in such a naive way. Maybe like it was never going to work, was it?
No, it definitely wasn't. I think if we were, if I was to try and give Jack Della Maddalena some credit, I would give him some credit for, surviving, getting back into, when Islam had side control, moving back into guard, keeping Islam working on the top. It's very, very hard thing to do when you have a guy like Islam there. Like, a lot of other fighters might have just gave in and broke and actually, maybe allowed a submission, or maybe allowed themselves to get TKO just to kind of get out of that. But Jack, he did fight. He had a level of fight, but it was fighting in a kind of defeated manner just to survive. And I think, I don't know, he'll obviously be devastated, but there's probably something he can take over by saying that he went all 5 rounds with Islam Makhachev. Not a lot of people can say that, but we're scraping the bottom of the barrel there, Sonny, when we're showering praise like that, if we're being honest. And you're going for submissions against a guy like Islam Makhachev. It's not what you want to do. I think what you want to do is something that camp has already done, which was frustrating for me, is that you need to fight him like Falk fought him. Falk didn't go for submissions. He created scrambles, and he tried to get back to his feet using those scrambles. And that's what you have to do to get. When you are fighting Islam Makhachev and you get taken down, you're not going to win that fight. You have to get back to your feet. And he massively failed to do any of those kind of things last night.
I think I know, and I think you're right, but I think I know why. Because, like, in the second round, Islam Makhachev almost darsed him. Like, he was going for, we were texting about it, and he almost had him when Jack got to a hip and attempted to move and scramble out. And I think he said to himself after that, if I do that again, he's going to catch me in this darts. So he was literally in a position where he couldn't do anything. He was in a position where, come the fourth round, he could no longer strike because he knew everything that he did was being set up for a takedown. Every single feint he was biting on. He wasn't throwing any feints now himself at all on the feet and on the ground when he was taken down. If he moved and if he got out, he was going to get finished. So again, I agree and disagree with the point about, like, he'll take heart from getting to the fifth round, and he will, because he proved that he could survive. But he also proved in that him surviving was a surefire way that he was never going to win that fight. It was, and like, you're 100% right about the Volkanovski points, because Volkanovski, if we remember that fight, he put himself in those positions where he was in a little bit of danger to get out. But like, Volkanovski had also been in there with Brian Ortega and, had the head guillotined off him and survived it. So he knows that I can survive those situations and get through them. And he was willing to take those risks. I think last night makes Volkanovski look such a great fighter again, though. I think that it made him look even better. But but all of that said, it's not. It's a somewhat of a criticism of Jack Della Maddalena, but it's more how good Islam Makhachev is really. Like, because most fighters, you can get yourself to a hip, push out and get up, because they might attempt to catch you in a darce, but you'll be able to get out of that because you're such a good fighter and get back up. But against Isam Makhachev, you can't afford to give him a darce position because he's going to finish it. He's finished, was it Dustin Poirier he caught with the darce, who's, a better jiu-jitsu guy than Jack Della Maddalena? I don't think even Jack would disagree with that. Like, if Jack gets caught in that position, he's going to get caught he's going to get submitted as well. So, yeah.
There was some moments in the fight where he did work himself back up onto the feet quite well, I would have to say. But never did anything with it. Never went on the attack. And like you said, just kind of like a rabbit in headlights, just kind of got stuck in movements, biting on feints, and just worrying about what could potentially happen instead of just trying to find a way to get himself into that fight. Like, I know it's easy for the two of us to say, but that is pure down to what Islam Makhachev brought to the table last night. And I think the way he melds his striking and his grappling together is just, it's phenomenal. And I mean, he wasn't even breathing heavy at the end of that fight either, Shawnee. You know what I mean? It was like, I'd say he could have went 5 or 10 rounds more, to be honest. And I get, that's something that I was wondering. I mean, if someone was able to push him at welterweight division, would he be able to hold on? And, would his cardio be strong in the 4th and 5th rounds? Well, we got the answer to that question. I think he was very strong.
We did, but in a fight that was, this wasn't, trying to, I don't know, whatever it be, run 5 miles in 15 minutes. This is running 5 miles in 35 minutes type of pace. This was...
He set a tempo that suited himself for sure.
Yeah, and Jack couldn't live with it. So I think you are right, though. I wouldn't have much issue with him. I think it'll help him. Someone like the cutting weight is going to be a hindrance more than anything for a guy that size. Like, he looked bigger than Jack Della Maddalena, I thought, in this fight. But yeah, he's just fantastic. Like, I think with Islam Makhachev, he's not unbeatable either, though. Like, he's not like you look at some guys like Habib when he was coming through. Habib looked like a guy that no one could beat him unless they did something absolutely mesmeric and absolutely sparked him, or a better version of him came around. Whereas Islam, I think, like, he does give you a few chances, and if you can, like, look at Volkanovski. Volkanovski came very, very close to beating him. If there was a welterweight version of Volkanovski, who was maybe, instead of 5'7" or whatever the Volkanovski is, let's say he's 6'4", and he can defend that takedown or get back up, or instead of, I think it was 6 minutes, wasn't it, that Jack Della Maddalena had defeat. If you can had on defeat in this 25, if you can extend that even to 12 or 15 minutes on the feet, and you're a hard-hitting, let's say a Morales or a Prates or an Ian Garry or someone like that, who, in their, all of them have had big head kick knockouts or big punch knockouts and stuff like that, with the weight advantage and all that, they have a real chance of beating someone like Makhachev. Again, all easier said than done. But at the same time, I think what that shows as well is, like, you came from a division with so many great fighters. You're now in another division with a whole new list of really great fighters. As you mentioned, there's a lot of them up and coming. And it just, like, if Makhachev keeps going, this is, we very rarely talk about it. Could he be an next guy to put on an Anderson Silva, GSP, John Jones type run? Because, I think MMA people are very unwanting to fall into the, your Dana White, like, this guy, every second fucking weekend we're listening to, this is the greatest fighter of all time and all this shit. But and again, these lads aren't there until they get there, but he is like 80-90% of the way there, so he's not very far away. Like, if he goes in here, let's say his next 3 fights are in whatever order, Shavkat, Ian Garry and Kamaru Usman, like that, it's hard not to look at that guy who has already beaten Volkanovski and Poirier and Charles Oliveira and all those guys and say he's not the greatest of all time. So it'll be interesting.
It'd be like, in certain ways, beating the likes of Ian Garry and all the up and comers in the welterweight division too is, I don't know. I guess it's hard to kind of say until it happens, but it's almost a better achievement than what he's done at the lightweight division, when you're fighting all of these killers coming into their prime and in their primes as well. I guess you could have I don't want have this personal opinion, but you could have an argument that Dustin Poirier was a little bit towards the end of his career. Charles Oliveira, all of those guys. He was simply better than all of them anyway. I don't think that any version of those fighters would have beaten him, but to want to challenge yourself to beat the young, hungry, up and coming fighters as well. I think that's something that Islam needed as well. And sometimes the kind of freshness in the challenge that lies ahead can bring the very best out of you too. So I'm very, very excited to see what happens over the course of the next couple of fights. He says he wants to defend the title multiple times, and I'm happy that he said that too. I just hope that those defenses come a little bit quicker than the ones that we've seen in the lightweight division.
Yeah. I was not at all happy with him saying what you want next, and they said the White House card, which I looked it up. It's 8 months away. It's like no. That can't be. Like, you cannot go up to a weight class where you don't have to cut much weight. Ramadan is going to be coming up. When's Ramadan? It's like the 3 or 4 months into next year, isn't it? Let's get a fight in before that. Let's get a fight in, take the rest of this month off. Let's get a 12-week camp in. Let's get back for the middle of February or something like that. You defend your title there. He didn't take a punch in this fight. No, nothing at all. And if you want to get back, then go through Ramadan and get on the White House card in, absolutely no problem. But
Ramadan falls February 17th to March 19th.
Okay. So depending on when the pay-per-view is, might be.
Yeah, I thought it was I thought it would have been a little bit later too. So
interesting. You should be wanting to get back for that January card. Then, there's, again, as you were kind of alluding to there, like a guy who doesn't fight all that very often, and when he does, it's usually a walk in the park. He can get back in there, and he should be doing that up and away. What did you think about that? Because that immediately was like, oh, I don't want to be hearing that from him. And another thing, well, we'll go for that first. What do you think of that? Because I've another
surprised about it though, Shawnee, because that's the way that's what he's been doing for the last number of years. Like, that's the only criticism I would have about him, is that he's not active enough. But obviously, I think your point was very true. You kind of have to kind of bide your time when you are cutting that weight, and he did have a big cut down to 155, but that's not there anymore. There's nothing saying that, like, he didn't take a lick of damage last night. So he could be ready to go back into camp again, and definitely go at the end of January. Get one in there before Ramadan, do Ramadan, then get on the White House card or whatever. I don't know. Weird request from him. I think get him wanting to be on that White House card as well, but whatever. It is what it is.
The other thing as well, everyone's talking about McGregor. Now, we'll believe that when we see it on the White House card. Do they really want Team Habib and McGregor on first of all on the same card? Second of all, on the White House card with fucking dignitaries and all? Do they really want that? I think one or the other, and I think if they have to choose, we know who they're going to choose. But yeah, we'll see it. While we're on that, what did you think of the massive brawl between Dillon Danis and John Pork and all the rest of them? That was a fun one, wasn't it?
Dillon Danis and Madison Square Garden brawls, they go hand in hand, don't they? I mean, Jesus Christ, this guy is fucking, it's crazy. I saw the video. I was actually at the start of the card. You have that we were watching the prelims, and then you have probably around. I'm a freak. I know exactly. You have 18 minutes from when the card kicks off to when the first fight kicks off there. So if you wanted to grab a quick bite to eat after watching the prelims, that was your chance. So I wasn't really truly paying attention, but the lads were saying, they're looking around at the start of the broadcast, and I didn't really know what was going on. It was only on Twitter or on X that I'd seen the video, and then that there was a brawl, and then later on after that was Dillon Danis. So I looked at the video. It looks like he was jumped. It looked like John Pork started it. It looked like it was a planned attack. Obviously there's a lot of history there. And I mean, you don't want to kind of see that happening at those kind of events. Two big Madison Square Garden cards, you have two brawls there. It's just a bad look for the UFC. But I mean, that's what Dana White kind of said it as well. It was like he blamed himself for allowing it to happen. I mean, Dillon is no saint, and those things need to be planned better. It was either Masvidal got him or the Dagestanis got him last night. There was people out there looking for the blood of Dillon.
Yes, there was. I actually, my little my little poster with the banned people from Madison Square Garden. I had it on my desk until I did up my background and stuff, and it got something glue fell on it or something, so I had to throw it away. But I need to fucking print that out again. But is Dillon Danis on that? I think he might be. But like, it was weird. I watched the video. I think Robbie and Barstool put it up. Robbie Fox, and I was watching the video, and I was like, oh. We'll see Dillon Danis coming out of here now in a second, because it reminded me of that brawl. And then I saw Dillon Danis. I was like, what the fuck is that? I predicted it as
right.
I watched it. But yeah, someone, like, there was another video going around as well. I couldn't really see it. And I don't know if it was Ali Abdelaziz and Dillon Danis that kind of started the whole thing, but whatever, we leave that to the TMZ podcast that are out every Monday to work
I know that maybe I might say this, yeah. I know that, obviously Dillon is no saint there, but, there was two sides there. There was a brawl and, some of the Dagestani contingent as well, they weren't held accountable for the first time it happened.
100%.
And I'd be surprised if they were held accountable this time. And I think they should be held accountable. This John Pork guy, I mean... Dana White should be coming out and saying that he'll never fight in the UFC as well. You know what I mean? You can't speak out the two sides of his mouth when it comes to stuff like this.
All I was thinking of when I saw John Pork fucking left hooking Dillon Danis into the back of the head was, what about Paul Daly? What was Paul Daly be thinking when things like this happen? Like, he hits Josh Koscheck with a small bit of a punch after the fight. Okay, it was bad, grand, cut him and whatever, but to never bring him back and all this. And now this, look, he's an internet meme. This John, I literally don't even know his real name. But he's signed to the UFC, is he? Is he going to fight?
Yes, he won a fight on Dana White's Contender Series, and I think he won a contract there. So
yeah. But like that guy just going around assaulting people, like I couldn't agree with you more. That was the first thing I thought. I was like, how, like, but Dana White, it's one rule for one, but one full rule for the other. But like, if Keane Cowley, like if McGregor actually cared about, the people that trained with him and stuff, and like you wanted to get him into the UFC, like back in the day, let's say with Charlie Ward and them boys, he probably would have got him into the UFC. But like McGregor only cares about one person these days, and that's himself. And he's not getting Dillon Danis into the UFC, and he's definitely not standing up for him in something like this. So Dana White doesn't give a fuck. Whereas he knows if he goes, "Oh, John Pork, you're fucking cut." I actually wouldn't be surprised if Isam said, right, grand, I'm never fighting for the UFC again. And Umar said the same and all, and Dana White doesn't want that. Because that was the situation before. Remember with Habib?
That's what Habib did. Habib said that he'd never fight again if, Dana White didn't kind of back his guys there.
Was your man? Zubaira, wasn't your man that was supposed to fight Artem there a couple of weeks ago? Zubaira to Kugov, I think, wasn't it? Yeah,
to Kugov, and then the other guy as well. His uncle as well. I can't remember his name. Gosh, yeah, he is a fighter too, but...
There's only one thing to say about this, Ian.
Sometimes these things happen in MMA.
There you go. Right. We'll talk about the rest of the welterweight fights in a minute, but we must talk about the flyweight title fight as well, the super fight, Zhang Weili going up to fight against Valentina Shevchenko, and you called this exactly correctly in a decimation by Valentina Shevchenko. Maybe I'll start this time by kind of just going through what happened in this fight. I actually thought Zhang started the better for maybe the first 20 seconds, and I was like, Shawnee's right here. She's the faster. I thought she was keeping good range, kicking her from the outside. I was like, this is Jesus. 5 rounds, Zhang Weili decision. And then Valentina dropped her with a knee to the body when she came inside, and then got on top for a while. Then she got a takedown of her own and won the rest of that round. In the second, there was a few exchanges. Then there was a body lock takedown. She stayed on top. And again, like the previous fight, probably the closest to a 10-8, but maybe not just. Zhang was kind of picking shots at the start of the third, but Val was just landing the harder shots. Like the most of the fight was on the feet in the third, but again, takedown for the last 90 seconds. Body kicks. The body kicks in the fourth round for Valentina Shevchenko were absolutely brilliant. And what happened again? Last 90 seconds, takedown, just won the round easily. Fifth round, picking her off from the outside. Zhang Weili couldn't do anything. 90 seconds to go, takedown, fight over. It was a brilliant performance from Zhang Weili. She, someone said she big sistered her, and I don't think I could put it better. But I know you kind of predicted this coming in. Was this the exact fight you thought, Ian, or was it different, or was it more one-sided even?
It was more one-sided than I thought it would be. Look, at the way I kind of saw this, it was basically how Zhang Weili fights is something that Valentina Shevchenko can kind of handle and deal with, and she has before. Like Zhang Weili, explosive striker, very fast, lands those big shots, likes to get on the inside, likes to mix it up, likes to get the takedown. There was two big problems last night. She couldn't get on the inside, and she couldn't get the takedown. And then, with those two big predicaments, that's the whole core of her game. And that's what has brought her years and years of success and made her one of the best fighters that we've seen in women's mixed martial arts. But she just met a better fighter last night, and and someone who will, that was greatness that we saw from Valentina Shevchenko last night. She's been on the wrong end of those kind of decisions before when she's fought Amanda Nunes, and I think the resurgence after the Alexa Grasso, trilogy of fights, or was it a trilogy of fights? It was a trilogy of fights.
One win, one draw, one loss.
Yeah, and I mean, there was many people that were writing her off at that stage of her career, but she got the belt back. She's defended the belt, and then she took on this challenge as well. Gave Zhang Weili the opportunity to come up and fight for the title, and I think those are the kind of fights and opportunities that she relishes to get motivated at this late stage of her career. But the big factor I thought, and was a major factor last night, was just the strength of Valentina Shevchenko and her ability. And I had said in the preview show, having watched her against Manon Fiorot, who is a really, really strong fighter, she was able to win those exchanges in the grappling. She was able to kind of control Manon Fiorot on the cage when I saw her fight in Montreal, and that kind of opened my eyes to kind of say, I think she will be able to do the same against Zhang Weili, and that's exactly what she did. And she just took Zhang Weili's game completely away from her. Zhang Weili had no plan B, and it was a decimation. It really was.
Yeah, it's weird because we just spoke about one fight where the person going up from the weight class below had no disadvantage whatsoever. In fact, it was probably an advantage. And this fight is the exact opposite, where the person coming from the weight class below, there's no, and the other point, I think this proved that JDM is not on the level of the very, very top guys. I don't think that was the case for Zhang Weili necessarily, even though she got beaten down, not as badly, but very close to as badly as Jack Della Maddalena did. Like, she had, some bits, but very, very, very few. But like, she has proven in the past how great of a fighter she is. But like, it's just reminded me a little bit of Demetrius Johnson against Dominic Cruz. And like, that was obviously before he went on his unbelievable run. But like, the main reason he lost that fight, if you go back and watch it, is Dominic Cruz is just bigger and stronger than him and held him against the cage and took away maybe any technical, not even advantage, but any technical strengths he had. Like, all the technical strengths of Zhang Weili, as you were mentioning there, from the striking to the grappling, were all taken away by Valentina Shevchenko. And it was the strength, but it was not just the strength, because that might be a bit derogatory to her. It was the use of that strength, the way she utilized it, even from that knee early days. Her game plan was perfect, wasn't it?
Like, and I maybe didn't give her enough credit too. If anyone did listen to the preview show, I have to give myself a clap and a pat on the back here. Now, I did kind of call it to a T in terms of what I felt Valentina had, was that her distance control was much better. Her defensive work on the feet was so much better. You had kind of said, Zhang Weili is going to be faster, maybe a little bit more powerful. And I said, she may be, but she has to be able to hit the target. There's no point in being fast and more powerful if you can't hit the target. And she couldn't hit the target last night.
At all.
And when she couldn't hit the target and she tried to close the distance and take it down, she kept getting reversed. She kept getting hurt in the clinch. She was absolutely punished for everything that she did last night. And it's such a difficult position to be in there and facing that scenario where you're like, oh my goodness, nothing that I have been working towards is working here, and there's no plan B. And the fact that there's no plan B doesn't make, Zhang Weili less of a fighter. It's just that she's at an age, and her whole kind of style has developed to what it is. And you're not going to be able to change it at this stage of your career either. It's just styles make fights, and she faced off against somebody who had the perfect style for all the questions that she wanted to ask Valentina last night, and it was wonderful. Like, I think I was massively impressed by Valentina. It was pure domination. To win the fight in all areas too just shows her level of class, and it was a joy to behold. I mean, it begs the question as to what's next for both of these fighters as well, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I just a couple more things like on the fight itself. I agree with like your points that we spoke about it coming in. Like the preparation, I think was key for this one, and who would look at their best on Saturday night, and I don't think we got like that answer from Zhang Weili because of the way the fight went, but we certainly got it from Valentina Shevchenko. Like, she looked as good as ever, I thought there. Like, it wasn't even one of these, like Casemiro, the way he's come back in his career, but like he still kind of looks a bit old and slow, but like he gets the job done. I thought she looked as good as she ever did. And like
we're not going out and telling Valentina to leave the fight when the fight leaves her.
I love it. Oh God, if Graham was there, he might do that. I know his people do that. But like Zhang Weili, I think she tried to do how she could have won the fight, where she tried to be fast, she tried to come in and land those shots, but as you called coming in, and as you called just suggested afterwards, she couldn't find that target. And like, when you can't find the target, when your speed advantage doesn't work, what can you do? Because you're not stronger, you're not bigger. Like, it showed last night. I thought she might have had a wrestling advantage coming in. I was certainly wrong on that. She absolutely didn't have that. She was really goosed at that stage. Like, I think it was a little bit different for Jack than Maddalena. I just think like the way he prepared was a bit foolhardy. Like, it's like he thought he was going to have success in a certain area, but he needed to do maybe different things. Whereas Zhang Weili, she thought, this is the way I can win the fight. It didn't work for her, and there was almost no other way she could have won it, which is very, very unfortunate for her. But like, I think Valentina Shevchenko deserves such massive credit. And I hate this promotion bullshit of like, oh, this is the greatest female fighter of all time versus the second greatest female fighter of all time. Like, there's no need to say that in a fight like this. We all know Amanda Nunes is the greatest female fighter of all time. We can talk after that who's the second. But like, it almost denigrates the greatness of Valentina Shevchenko, because if you call her the greatest of all time, we all know, anyone with a head on, anyone that knows mixed martial arts knows that's not true. We all know Amanda Nunes is the greatest of all time. But if you're to go out there and say she's one of the greatest of all time, like, apart from Amanda Nunes, like, what about her going up and, as you suggest, maybe fighting Amanda Nunes next? And if she was to beat her after losing to her a couple of times before, could she prove she's the greatest of all? Like, that's the type of conversation that I think she warrants, because she is that great of a fighter. She is, again, a fighter who, like Casemiro, she lost to Alexa Grasso, drew the second fight, obviously that weird draw, but then came back. Like, after that Alexa Grasso fight, or even during that, I don't think many people think she would be coming back, winning the championship and going into a super fight and winning it as well. It's been absolutely mesmeric. But to your point as well about what do they do next, like, I think for Zhang Weili, poor old Mackenzie Dern is probably the biggest loser from Saturday night, because she might have to face Zhang Weili now. I wonder, though, will Mackenzie Dern try to turn around pretty quickly and fight someone else first, and then fight Zhang Weili maybe? I think that might be the fairest thing to do on Mackenzie Dern. And the other side of it then for Valentina Shevchenko, Natalia Silva was there, and look, it's going to be hard to see her winning, but she's a very, very good fighter, so I'd be interested in seeing that. I think Valentina Shevchenko has done enough. Just sit around for maybe a couple of months, see what the story is with Amanda Nunes and Kayla Harrison. I would love to see her fight either of them, to be honest. I know, like, maybe we're talking about size again, but Kayla Harrison is not of the technical ability of a Zhang Weili coming up, or of a Valentina Shevchenko. If she was to come up as well, I don't think anywhere near it. And Amanda Nunes is definitely not where she once was as a fighter. Like, we saw her lose the title, come back, but even in her comeback, she didn't look like Valentina looked on Saturday night. So I think those are two, not they're winnable fights. She mightn't win them, but there are winnable fights. So she has earned the right, I think, to wait around and see what happens there. What would you like to see happen with both of them going forward in the new year?
Well, I think, Zhang Weili moving down makes the most sense. I'm wondering how long she has left, to be honest, and how much does she want to do this. And I'm also wondering, from a business perspective, will the UFC want her to go down and take the title from Mackenzie Dern? If she goes and takes the title from Mackenzie Dern, maybe decides to hang it up, really devalues Mackenzie Dern as a champion there. It's kind of like we've started a new chapter in the strawweight division right now, and it'd be interesting to see if the UFC want to go down that route or if they'll kind of cater to whatever Zhang Weili wants. I would imagine they would. I think they don't really care too much about that, but it's definitely something that I've been thinking about. It's like, what do you think? Maybe am I a little bit out to lunch on that, or
I don't know. It's a tough one to know because, like, if you are the UFC, right, and you have someone like Mackenzie Dern there as champion right now, you're probably happy enough with Mackenzie Dern as champion, because, for all the reasons.
Very marketable.
Very marketable and all that, and she's, Brazilian, American, all of that sort of thing. But, like, she's not the best fighter in the world, and, like, whoever beats her mightn't be the best fighter in the world either. But when you have Zhang Weili as champion, she is the best fighter in the world in that division. And also Zhang Weili, she's pretty marketable as well. China's a massive market, and they've obviously taken her back there and things as well. So I don't know, are there any wrong answers? But, like, I would never give out to a person like I don't know, talking about retirement or talking about maybe this is the end for her. For a person like that, I used to always say it with Frankie Edgar, right? You've achieved so much in your career. You've got to a place now where maybe you have lost. And for Zhang Weili, it's a little bit different because I don't think anyone would argue she wouldn't go back down and win the title again. I think most people would say she would. But, like, if she was to retire now, she said, look, I had my reign as champion. I went up. I wasn't able to get it done. That's it for me. I wouldn't say much about it. There was one point I wanted to ask you about too. And you can go back on that one if you have anything else to add to it. But, like, what did you think? What did you think of Zhang Weili having an English speaker and John Wood in her corner? Because I thought they were all over the place, first of all. Then she did the post-fight interview, and she had a translator. And now someone tweeted me and goes, oh, she also had a translator outside the cage as well, which I don't know. I went back to see, and, I'm not sure if it was a translator or not. And even if it was, it's outside the cage with, 22,000 people or whatever it is roaring, shouting. I've been there before, like standing outside the cage. You can't hear what the fighters are saying inside that cage. I thought it was a team of the night that the cornering was fucking all over the place throughout the night. Like for Zhang Weili, maybe she just wants a post-fight translator. Maybe she has to have one, or maybe the UFC just had one there for her. Maybe she could have done it herself. But I don't know. It just felt a bit off to me. What did you think?
Yeah, I think it's hard to kind of truly get a grip of what was going on in the corner from my perspective anyway, but I know that 1 minute that you have is truly valuable and you have to make it count for it every single second. And if there's confusion and, people talking over each other or maybe mistranslation as well, things can be kind of said or misconstrued as well. So, look, I think they were giving her advice, but I don't think any of it would have worked anyway. So, and I think, I think Zhang Weili was defeated, the corner was defeated, and, the realization of how the fight was going to play out happened very early in the first round, and the writing was on the wall. So it's kind of like, you're trying to encourage, you're trying to maybe make Zhang Weili dig very deep. I think she did dig very deep in the fight, but I don't know. I wouldn't look too much into it, to be honest. I think, I would say that, you've got to make sure that you have those things buttoned up in between rounds. And I think that was like the first with John Wood being in the corner. Was that his first or second time?
Oh, I think it might be the second time.
Yeah. So, it's hard to know. You don't know what they have worked out, but look at it. At the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter. Nothing was working for Zhang Weili or the team last night, and that's kind of harsh thing to say, but that's the fact of the matter.
We have to get John Wood Mandarin classes before she comes back. That's what we have to do next time. Right. Let's talk about the other two welterweight fights. I don't think we need to spend too long on Michael Morales versus Sean Brady. if you watched the post-fight press conference last night, Michael Morales got about a 4-hour press conference by himself. Half of Ecuador was over there asking him questions, which is absolutely great to see, you know. But he went in here, Ian. He came with this weird forward stance that we used to see a lot in mixed martial arts before with strikers versus wrestlers. And, you know, sometimes it worked to an extent in fights. It worked a fucking treat here, I'll tell you. Sean Brady was not able to get near him. He wasn't able to get in on his hips. He wasn't able to take him down. He tried maybe a couple of times. This reminded me a little bit of another famous fight in MSG between Eddie Alvarez and Conor McGregor. And a lot of people are like, oh, you know, why didn't he take him down? Why didn't he go for takedowns? Well, he did. He just couldn't get near him in terms of range. I think it was the same thing here. I think Sean Brady tried a couple of times. He couldn't get near him. Morales just caught him flush a few times. Then he started overthrowing his shots. Had a bit of an issue then because he wasn't getting him out of there, and then he was just like, right, calm down a little bit, hit him with a couple again, and just ended up finishing him. I thought this fight went 3 minutes 27 seconds. I thought from about a minute and a half in you wouldn't know which way this fight was going to go, but around the time that Morales hit him for the first time, Brady tried to go for a takedown again, couldn't get near it. That fight was up and done. It was a little bit like the Steve Garcia fight against Onama a couple of weeks ago. It was like anything this guy came in trying to do, boom, out the fucking window. And I think it was the same thing for Sean Brady here. We spoke about it coming in, about Brady. Like, Brady's wrestling was the key here, his submission game and all of that, his experience. But I'll give my... and I still pick Brady, but what I said about Morales... Like, I always liked him as a fighter. I always thought he could be a top 10, top 5 fighter, but I never thought he could go to the next level until the last couple of fights, where he looked absolutely amazing. Now, I thought it would take maybe a loss here and a couple of more fights, which is exactly what I said in the previous show. But this sort of win was coming for Morales, whether it was on Saturday night or next February or this time next year. I think it was coming. This guy is something special, and isn't he? What a fucking win from the way he did it as well. So smart.
Yeah, so smart. Like, the size difference between Sean Brady is a big guy. Morales was massive in there. Like, just a force of nature. And you're spot on with what you call it. This was kind of, there was a feeling out process that happened over the course of 90 seconds here. But when Morales found his range and landed clean on the first strike that he landed, you could see the look in Sean Brady's eyes. And then he kind of went into panic mode, which is what you don't want to do against a guy like Michael Morales, because we see exactly what happens there. You're shooting from distance, you're telegraphing all of your takedown attempts. You know, there was a lot of questions out there for Morales based off, you know, some of the opponents that he had fought in the past that were good fighters, but, you know, not the upper echelon class of fighters either. Well, he beat one last night, and he's going to beat a hell of a lot more if he stays producing performances like that as well. Like, this guy has come in a world of, you know, Sean Brady's, Ian Garry's, and Shavkat Rakhmanov's. This guy is after coming out through the flames here, and is gifting us with the talents that he has. And it's like, I think I tweeted out last night, the fucking welterweight division is shit hot right now. Carlos Prates as well. I mean, my goodness, and it's just exciting to see. These guys are all going to fight each other over the next couple of years, and it's going to be something to behold. And Morales, look at after that performance last night, you know, you can't have too many more doubts that he's not going to be able to mix it up with the very best in the division anymore. And that's about the size of it. I mean, you have the questions before a fight like this. The questions are answered. The questions are answered tenfold. And now we can just go down the road of being excited to see what's to come, to be honest. I really can't wait. Unbelievable.
I remember when Morales was kind of breaking into the UFC around, you know, Ian Garry was probably a few fights in at the time, or when he was breaking in maybe to the top 15-ish. I remember a lot of people were saying, oh, match these guys up. And I was like, hold on, wait now, and let's match them up. Like, let's be honest, it could be next, maybe. And what a fucking fight that would be. But like there's some big, long, rangy, hard-hitting fucking guys in this welterweight division. And we just need Isam Makhachev to play ball here for a little bit and fight one of them at the start of next year. And we can, like, what that would create then, let's say Ian Garry wins next week, and we'll talk about that fight, obviously, and he fights against Islam Makhachev. What that would create then is probably Michael Morales versus Shavkat Rakhmonov, maybe. It would probably create Prates versus Usman, something like that. And we would get 3 fucking fantastic fights, which would lead to another 2 or 3 fucking fantastic fights in a fantastic division with so many fantastic fighters. God, I really hope that happens. You mentioned Prates. What about this? Like, because the two of us, we talked about in the previous show, we weren't sure which side to go with. We both picked Prates. We both were like, oh, we're going to change our mind. We stuck with Prates, kind of.
I changed my mind.
I stuck with it.
I never deleted it. You told me to. I was like, fucking have to stand on business.
You have to stand on business. God almighty. Yeah, it was brilliant by Prates,
it was, yeah, I mean, that was the scenario that played out in my head. And I think, the biggest question we had coming in here, Shawnee, is where was Leon Edwards' head at? Like, does he still have it? And does he still want it? I
thought he looked okay. I thought he looked good.
I thought he did look very good. I think we were wondering about him utilizing his grappling, and we saw that in round 1. I think that was a very smart game plan. And I think the big mistake that he made here was why didn't he immediately go for it again in round 2?
Yeah.
I think he just played around with fire a little bit too much and got absolutely cracked. Like that straight left down the middle. That's what we've seen that time and time again from a guy like Carlos Prates. And, even, you do kind of forget what happened in round 1 based on what happened in round 2 a little bit. But, that kind of sharpness of the mind, that needs to be there, and it always needs to be there. And like, I would still circle back around and say, is Leon as sharp as he once was when he was fighting, looking to be a contender and looking to get the title shot and winning that title? I kind of beg to differ a little bit on that, even though he did do well in the first round. But, the end result was the end result. He was knocked out in the second round. So, that's a bad knockout too. It's his first knockout of his career. And, we've seen with other fighters too, it's kind of very tough to come back from as well. So, I mean, look, a tough one for Leon, but I mean, fantastic stuff from Carlos Prates. I think, he's an excellent, exciting addition, similar enough to Michael Morales in the welterweight division too. I would definitely not hold... right now, I probably hold Michael Morales a little bit higher.
I was 100%.
In terms of the ceiling, I think Carlos Prates will be thereabouts, but we kind of seen a lot of his flaws against a guy like Ian Garry. Everyone wants to go on about the last minute of Ian Garry and Carlos Prates, but Ian Garry beat him for 24 out of 25 minutes, and that fight on what, fucking 2 weeks notice or 3 weeks notice as well. So, but I still think a guy like that in Carlos Prates, I think he'll probably gatekeep the top 4 or 5 in that division. I think if something special might happen, UFC might be able to manufacture him getting him into a title shot, but I just don't think he's good at the very, very elite level of that division. A wonderful fighter, an exciting fighter, and a guy who would always be excited to watch.
And he's another guy as well, I think, is proven in this fight, but in the Ian Garry fight as well, that he's a live guy in there, no matter how long that fight goes. Like, it was a 5th round, wasn't it, against Ian Garry? And okay, it was only the second round here, but like, it somewhat came out of nowhere. Like, I think I picked the fight to go to a decision. I was like, this is kind of looking good to go to a decision, like, no matter who kind of gets on top. And then he just landed that bomb of a left hand right down the middle. It was absolutely unbelievable. But
smoking like a train as well.
Yes, it is.
It's mad. Crazy.
Before we move on to the rest of the card, let's talk about the Ian Garry fight next week against Belal Muhammad. And we're going to have a full preview out on Wednesday or Thursday for the card, so we'll go through every fight on that. But for today, let's just talk about Ian Garry versus Belal Muhammad, because I think this Ian takes on a little bit of new life now. Because if you look at, as we speak here, recording on Sunday night, obviously Isam Makhachev is the champion. Jack Della will, all of these will move down one. Your rankings are Jack Della, Belal, Brady, Shavkat, Leon, Kamaru, and then Ian Garry. So, like, Ian's fighting Belal. Obviously, Sean Brady just lost. Shavkat, I know where Shavkat is. He's still injured. Leon obviously just got bludgeoned and knocked out of the UFC. Kamaru Usman is like, he's a, who'd he be? Joaquin Buckley. Like, I think on name and previous is why Kamaru Usman is in the conversation. But if Ian Garry wins next week against Belal Muhammad, of all those guys, Shavkat, I think, because he's beaten Ian Garry, I think he deserves to be the guy talked about for, the foremost name here. But if he's not ready to come back, if the UFC think you're going to have another fight before you fight for the title, and Ian Garry beats Belal Muhammad, it's hard to argue against him. Like, I know Michael Morales is there. He just beat Brady, who's number 2. So he'll probably go up to, I would not be surprised if he went to maybe number 3 or 4. But obviously everyone will be coming down one because Islam is coming in there. But I wouldn't be surprised if it was Belal, Shavkat, Morales, Brady is the rankings. Now, that might be incorrect, but Ian Garry wins that. He then goes over him as well. And if he gets a knockout or something like that, it's all in all, it's a massive fight for Ian Garry, really. Like, this is, it's pressure, I suppose, but it's also an opportunity. Like, we spoke about this in a few fights recently, like the need to go in and impress. And I don't know about you, but like, I really think this is a fight where Ian Garry has to go in there because of what happened this weekend, because of the Michael Morales performance, because he's lost to Shavkat, because of the Carlos Prates performance, even though he's beaten Carlos Prates, that he almost needs to prove something else. He needs to prove that he's a finisher and he can beat one of the top guys in the world, just like Morales beat and knocked out one of the top guys in the world. And that makes for something fucking special. I can't wait. Do you agree with that, or do you think a win enough is enough even?
No, I don't. I think he'll want to. I think the best chance that he can get for himself to get that title shot is going out and finishing Belal Muhammad. And I think we have to remember this will be the first time that we've seen Ian Garry fight on a full camp since the Michael Venom Page fight as well. The fights against Shavkat Rakhmonov on short notice, fight against Carlos Prates on short notice too, performed excellently well in both fights. Well, obviously very difficult to look at your very best when you can't prepare accordingly for your opponent. And I think what Ian doesn't maybe get enough credit for is his fight IQ. So he would have had the time to prepare for a guy like Belal Muhammad. I think he would have taken a lot from what he's seen in the Jack Della Maddalena fight when he fought Belal Muhammad. I think he'll take a lot of kind of the game plan that Jack did, and that's forward moving pressure. I think he'll have the range. He'll win that range battle as well. And this is a fight that Ian always had eyes on. I had a brief chat with him when I was at the Montreal card, and he wanted this fight for Chicago. Didn't happen in Chicago, and now he gets it. And he's had eyes on this fight for a reason, and that's because he truly believes that he can beat Belal Muhammad, and I truly believe that he can beat Belal Muhammad as well. Belal Muhammad is not going to be able to take him down. He's not going to be able to bully him. He's not going to be able to get his range. And I think the only thing, and I think you're right, is that you have to go out there and finish. Ian Garry has been given the luxury of watching all of those fights last night play out. And he's been put in an opportunity here where he can one-up those performances. Now, very hard to one-up a guy like Michael Morales going out and knocking out Sean Brady in 2 minutes. Are similar enough, obviously, enough to Carlos Prates, what he did to Leon Edwards. But I think, to do it to a guy like Belal Muhammad, who was up at the top of division, number 1 ranked, that makes a statement. That's knocking out the number 1 contender. It should make you the number 1 contender. And I think he has the ability to go out and do that. Will it happen after 2 or 3 minutes? Probably not. I think he's going to beat down and break Belal Muhammad, I think, in the later rounds. And I'm excited to see, if he can get over the line and get that finish, because he really needs it. It's one of the kind of asterisks over his performances as well, where he's, for lack of a better term, known as a decision merchant. But Ian Garry was finishing fights, very early stages of his UFC career and before he went into UFC as well. So I'm very excited to see if he can actually do it here at the highest level. And I think all the ingredients for this fight are kind of leaning towards that as well. So it's a massive fight for him.
It is 9 years since Belal Muhammad was knocked out or finished in any form. So if he is to do it, it's a lot. We saw it with Leon Edwards, but
Leon Edwards, that's what I was going to say there. I mean, like, that's what you have to do to kind of get the plaudits, isn't it? Like, Leon, and yeah, it's going to be good. I think I have a feeling he's really hungry to get this one done.
I think he is as well. I'm interested in what you said there about, like, Belal's not going to be able to take him down. He's not going to be able to, to big brother him, not going to be able to bully him. And I would tend to agree, but, like, how does Belal win the fight if he can't do that? Do you know? That
he doesn't. It's going to be like, I can kind of see this a little bit playing out like we saw Valentina, Shevchenko, and Zhang Weili, is that, everything and all the skills that Belal Muhammad possesses are just not going to work here.
I find it hard sometimes to get a real gauge on Belal, because, like,
I thought he fought horribly against Della Maddalena too, to be honest. But,
yeah.
I think Garry can defend the takedown better than Della Maddalena. I think maybe Belal Muhammad bought into his own success a little bit, talking about, the fucking Canelo hands and all of that bullshit as well. It's like, no one's interested in that. Like, just go out there and fight the fight that's going to get you to win. Like, I think a lot of people get bought into the entertainment side of things as well. Go out there and win fights.
Yeah.
And the UFC brass would be very guilty of creating that narrative too, where you have to go out there and win an exciting fight. So no, you have to go out there and fucking win fights.
I think as well, I haven't seen Belal training much with the Dagestani boys over the last while. I don't know if you have or not, but, like, it felt there like when Isam was talking about coming up to welterweight, and we wouldn't fight because we're teammates and all that stuff. I feel like maybe that's gone out the window a little bit, because, like, I think their plan, and I don't think this is news anyway, it's probably to get Usman and Nurmagomedov over to the UFC, go in at lightweight, try to win that title with him, whether he can or not. Now we'll see, I suppose, and have Islam at the weight class above. And, like, Belal, Belal's on his side. So we see now with Kamaru Usman, Habib wouldn't fight him, and now Islam is talking about fighting him.
Islam wouldn't have fought Belal if Belal had the title.
Oh no, absolutely, absolutely. And now, like, Belal's out the way, he's like, well, he's kind of gone, So
if Belal does go out and beat Garry, he's right back in the mix there.
Absolutely, 100%. But my point in that is, like, is Belal as well prepared for, say, the last fight and this fight as he would have been for previous fights? With, like, those lads are amazing. Like, not just fighters, but the way Habib prepares those lads, it's absolutely unbelievable. So I'd be interested to see how well prepared he is for any fight going forward. But, like, I think this is such an interesting fight, because, like, Garry, with any sort of win here, can prove so much, because, like, Belal, whatever you want to say about Belal, like, he is a very good wrestler. He can, like, he's destroyed lads before. Look what he did to Leon Edwards. He definitely turned the corner in his career. But, like, is he one of those guys that hit the best of it too late in his career? And I think he's 37 years of age now, and he won't be able to kind of recapture that again. I don't know. Like, is he, what I was suggesting earlier, one of those kind of trios of welterweight champions who are kind of in the interim between one great and the next great? And then the question is, who is Garry, one of those greats? Is Morales one of those greats? But, like, I suppose with Ian, we'll get the. We'll somewhat get that question answered if he can beat Belal. But I think with Ian, I think his size, I think his jab, his ability to strike in close but out far as well, his leg kicks, his clinching ability, that's absolutely top notch, I think is going to be a real issue for Belal, because Belal is very good in the clinch, likes to take lads down there as well at times. Like we saw against Shavkat. Like Shavkat had some success, but Ian Garry had some success as well. It was a very, very close fight. You know, one kind of 90 seconds of that fight turns around and Ian Garry's the winner rather than the loser. So is Belal as good as Shavkat? As good a grappler, as good an all-round fighter? Maybe, you know, the grappling, you could say maybe he can be a more dominant wrestler than Shavkat, but I don't think he's as good an all-around fighter, and Ian did fairly well in that, and has been improving training, you know, over with Damien Maya and Charles Oliveira and those lads over in Shoot the Box. Yeah, you know, sometimes there is, maybe we can say, you know, we look at the Irish lads too favourably and all, but I don't think anything I said there is unfair. And I think, like, look, the betting odds are pointing towards Ian Garry as well. I think he probably should win this fight. I'm a bit more unsure about the finish. I think I agree with you in the point that I think he needs to get it to definitely solidify himself a title shot. But if he can get it or not, I'm not sure. Like, I think this could be one of those. Was it the Neil Magny fight for Ian Garry? Let me just look here. Yeah, where he just beat the living hell out of him for 3 rounds and almost finished him, but won the decision. I could see a fight like that happening here. And do you know what? I think that'd be very, very impressive too. Again, it mightn't be enough to earn him the title shot, but you know, it's great. Well, what a big night for Irish MMA as well, Ian. As the presenter of the biggest Irish MMA podcast in the world. Wholly dedicated Irish MMA podcast, let's put it that way. It must be great to see another guy like on the brink of a title shot. After McGregor and all, we never thought we weren't sure if we'd ever see it again, and I think it was a bit foolhardy to think we might see it again. And the fact, you know, we've had Peter Queally and Paul Hughes over in Bellator /PFL, and have we had someone else? Pedro Carvalho.
Yeah,
and we're going to talk about another Irish champion, obviously, in a few minutes here. But if Ian Garry could get back to there again, wouldn't it be just great for Irish MMA? Wouldn't it be fantastic?
Well, he's right there. He's right there as we speak. It's you're going to be a very exciting couple of years. It's, you know, listening to your interviews with Ian Garry when he's on the come up and how he's talked about moments like this. You know, this is what he talked about. This is what he wants to do. And he's a guy that is able to rise up to the challenges. Obviously, he had the blip against Shavkat Rakhmonov, but you know, he would have learned lessons from that. That fight was also a short notice as well. So, like, that's why I kind of would want to reiterate the point I made at the start of this conversation. Is I'm very excited to see Ian Garry off a full camp here, and see what level of performance that he can produce there. And I think that will give us a better feel of how much he's leveled up, how far he can go. And I think he's fighting Belal Muhammad here at a very, very good time. You know, you'd always be a little bit wary if we weren't paying Belal maybe enough respect in our analysis, but at the same time, though, what we've seen in recent fights would kind of tell you what we said. I would be similar enough to yourself. Like, I think that he needs to get the finish, but I'm not super confident in that. But like, to have an Irishman up there at the very top is absolutely brilliant. And you know, I was like, don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. If it's by somehow we can manage to bring a show back to Dublin, it would be brilliant. But I wouldn't hold my breath on that, unfortunately. Yeah. But you know, it's great to see the old tricolour back up at the very top of the UFC.
It is indeed. It is indeed. Right, just clean a few things up from UFC 322. Remember, John Anik said that. With Daniel Cormier, when he said something about a Chinese translation or something, and John goes like, "Give me a second, I need to read this promo," and then like clean up and just actually say what happened rather than what that fucking dribble that just came out of Daniel Cormier's mouth was. But that was absolutely here.
I didn't really listen too much of the commentary last night. I had to turn down.
I had for a lot of it as well. Yeah,
I heard Rogan had a bit of a mare as well. I heard him talking about Thai cups at the. Well, I did hear him talking about the Thai cup at the start. It's not. The cup you wear doesn't really matter. When you get hit in the cup, it's the way the cup moves.
Yes.
And digs into you. Like, I mean, a Thai cup is going, like, the Thai cup takes away the sting, but it doesn't take away the impact. So, I mean, come on. What was it? I thought he stopped one short of recommending what you used to always do with the diamond.
Oh no, he did. He said it. Yeah, diamond.
He said the diamond.
No, he actually said diamond MMA. You should get them, but if you should go for a Thai cup before them, they should be illegal, but they're not illegal. So it's just one better than the diamond MMA cup. Now, so,
fuck's sake, man!
Typical
this fucking early 2000s again.
He also argued that 10 was greater than 15, which was he was like, the difference between Zhang Weili putting on 10 pounds to go up and fight at flyweight is more than someone going from 170 to 185 in terms of body weight. Now, it isn't. Someone did the maths. It's relatively similar, but the other one's more. But also, it was just so funny, him like arguing that 10 is greater than 15 is just the most Joe Rogan thing ever. But anyway, we'll run through these pretty quickly. We talked about Santini Dariush already. It was pretty easy. He put his hands on Dariush and he was out. Bo Nickel, we talked about it last week. We called it perfectly. This was such an easy fight for him. A guy that absolutely couldn't take him down and can't strike. Against Bo Nickel, who took him down once, looked at ease on top, and then just outstruck him for the rest of it. I thought this was a smart display as well by Bo Nickel. I think he just he just stuck in there and then landed a big shot, lovely head kick, knockout. Aaron Blanchfield lost the first round. Tracy Cortez, I thought, here we go. Tracy Cortez is just going to win this fight pretty handily. And what a mistake.
What was she doing?
Couldn't believe it. What a mistake she made trying to take Blanchfield down. Blanchfield got on top and ended up rear naked choking her. Pat Sabatini again. My guy looked really fucking good here. Every time I see him, I'm like, this guy can be a world champion. He's such a great fighter. Looked fantastic. Kyle Dawkins got a lovely dart against Gerald Mearshart. Ethan Ewing, probably the star of the undercard, came in on short notice and I deservedly beat Malcolm Melmaker. And Fallon McLean as well. Your girl beat the living shit of Angela Hill. And this Bansagur Susarkayev, not impressed by him at all. I thought he was pretty poor against Eric Maikan. Anything there that impressed you, Ian? Anything you want to touch on a little bit more before we move on?
Fatima Klein, obviously, you know, I've been a long time admirer of Fatima Klein. I think that she is the future of the strawweight division. Taking on Angie Hill, she almost had her out there a couple of times. Angie's so hard to put away. I know I was confident that she might have been able to do it, but I mean, yeah, she beat her as comprehensively as one could there. I was very impressed with Ewing. I think, he came in 48 hours notice, and you know, Wellmaker was a guy that were putting a lot of kind of hype behind, and they wanted to kind of to build him up, but he got found out last night. I mean, not to be all and end all. I'm sure he'll come back, but he looked out of answers, which would make me worry about his progression in the UFC. Whereas Ewing came in and he looked good. His movement was good. His striking was good. And yeah, I'd be looking forward to seeing him on a full camp as well. I thought, Rodriguez and Kopolov was a good fight to beat the hell out of each other. And Bo Nickel got the much needed knockout win. I think we would be having a different conversation about Bo Nickel if he didn't get that head kick knockout. So,
that's true.
You know, I think that was a fight that was made for him to finish. And, you know, he did it. I thought he looked good on the feet. I thought, you know, it's easy to look good against a guy like Rodolfo Vieira, though, for being honest. So, you know, it was a fight that we said was set up for him to win, and he did it. So we have to give him credit for that. It was a highlight reel knockout. And, an exciting finish. So fair play to him as well.
Mm-hmm. Another highlight over the weekend, obviously, for Irish MMA was over at Cage Warriors 196 with Solomon Simon picking up the interim featherweight title against Kai Rougeau. I'll let you run through the fight here in a second, Ian, because I know like Solomon Simon seemed to be a bit disappointed with it afterwards. I thought he looked fantastic again. I thought he did so many good things in the fight, but I just want to give credit to Solomon Simon, first of all, as a guy who did the amateur game the right way. When Dillon got his wins and his losses, was a guy who fought loads multiple times a year, got his experience, turned pro at the right time, did it the right way, went to Cage Warriors, the right place, put himself on the right path, and look where he is now. But also, credit to Team Rhino, Andy Ryan, and all the crew over there. Like, they're a gym that they don't get enough credit, to be honest. Like, you know, we often, and I think like this puts them in, if not in pole position, right up there for Irish Gym of the Year. We'll obviously have that conversation in another couple of weeks, but like James Sheehan, champion up until not too long ago, obviously Paul Redmond, Neil Seary, and many more down through the years have been like just such good, solid fighters, and have always gone out there and looked very, very good technically, but tough, well coached, well prepared, smart, tough, and all of that. Everything you need to be a good mixed martial artist. And here's another one in Solomon Simon. Like I think Andy Ryan, like I was thinking about recently, the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame nominees came out there over the last one. And if we were starting up, you know, a SevereMMA, Irish MMA Hall of Fame, and if you were to put in like the first 10 people, like there's a few names that obviously would jump out straight away, but I think Andy Ryan should definitely be one of those as well. Like what a servant that man has been to Irish MMA down through the years and to his gym, and obviously the Team Rhino down in Waterford as well. Let's not forget where Solomon came from first day, and his brother as well, obviously training with him as well. It's always great to have a family affair going, just like James Sheehan before him as well. I just love like gyms who are at it for a long time and have success, and then maybe a couple of years where they're fighting their way back, but then they get back again and they get to that position where Solomon Simon is now. It's one of those ones like where I wish I was a great writer, like someone like, I don't know, Bin Folks or something, so I could like interview everyone and do a great article. But maybe, maybe I could try my hand at it. But
dust off that typewriter, Shawnee.
Dust off that typewriter. But God, I just thinking about it after win. Like I said, I'll throw it over to but for the fight itself. But I thought the fight was the performance was very, very good. Araujo came to fight.
Yes.
But I thought the story behind it and what Solomon does, and also what's going to be coming next. And we talk about that Nick Bagley fight at the top of Cage Warriors 200, which is going to be next. Oh, fucking hell. I just thought this was perfection. Absolutely brilliant. What did you think of the fight? So tell us about the fight. Break it down for people maybe if they haven't seen it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe just to kind of talk a little bit about Andy as well, not to kind of double down on what you said, but very first episode of the Owl Triangle podcast, he was our very first guest. I think that was for a reason, and an OG, a pioneer of mixed martial arts, and has helped the sport grow within the country massively. And it's great to see the gym having such a level of success, and we'll have some more to come as well for many years. The fight, Solomon, this was a difficult one because we spoke with Sol before this fight. Obviously, there was a lot of things up in the air in terms of opponents. We look at fights and we analyze fights, and sometimes you just don't know or you don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. And I think the kind of scenario that Solomon was dealing with ahead of this fight is that he didn't know if he was going to have an opponent for a while. They got Araujo in the end. There wasn't that much tape on him. There wasn't that much time to prepare for a guy like him. That Ian Dean is going to go out there when he gets a last minute replacement, that he's going to be a tough guy. It's going to be a guy that's going to put up a fight for anybody. We've seen it time and time again in Cage Warriors. He can pull a rabbit out of a hat when a term comes to short notice opponents for fighters here. And I think Araujo, like you said, did come to fight. He wanted to close the distance. He wanted to kind of initiate grappling exchanges. He looked to kind of take the back of Solomon a couple of times. I think Solomon did very well. What I would be very impressed with was the composure of Solomon for the moment that he was in. It was such a huge moment for him. This is what he's dreamed of for all of his life, to become a world champion. And when you have such turbulence coming into a fight, obviously it was supposed to be Nick Bagley and then multiple opponents thrown at him, to go out and do what he did, I think was massively impressive as well. I think when he does have a full camp and he can focus on a lot of on one person and one person only, I think you probably will see a better performance from Solomon in terms of him being at his very best. But I think you have to understand that he was kind of downloading a lot of data at the start of that fight, and he had to do that because he had very little time to prepare and zero tape on this guy. And I think he did it. And when he did, the writing was on the wall. I mean, yeah, it's like, he kind of survived the early storm. Guys like Araujo have nothing to lose here. They're always going to come out and they're going to go hell for leather, and they're going to give it their absolute all early days, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And it didn't work for Araujo. I think, fair play to him. He was game, but Solomon was just a better fighter. I think, stiff jab, his counter wrestling was good. His strength in the clinch, got into a couple of bad positions and didn't panic and worked his way out of those positions. And then ultimately, obviously, got the better of those grappling exchanges, got on top, and he got the almost buzzer beat. He's a guy who likes to finish fights.
He does.
Those sorts, the end of a round. So, I think it was a fantastic performance for Solomon, given the circumstances, given the magnitude of the fight, and big things to come from Solomon Simon. Obviously, Nick Bagley was in the cage after the fight that fight is going to be pegged down for Cage Warriors 200. Like I've said it time and time again. That is, I feel, the best fight that Cage Warriors can put on right now. Full stop.
Yeah, I've said the same thing a couple of times. I've said it before. I think Nick Bagley is the best fighter in Cage Warriors for the last couple of years, to be honest. But he won a bit easy against Solomon. There's no doubt about that. I don't think there's a close second, to be honest, in terms of the best fight that they can put on in Cage Warriors. It's such an amazing fight. Just to piggyback off of your points as well about Solomon, the two things I was most impressed by were one of them that you mentioned, the ability to get out when he was put in bad positions and to keep fighting, but also his ability to make it count when he got back onto the feet. Like every single time he got an opportunity, he took it. And that, like, we saw that with the 2 title fights last night. The best of the best fighters can't do that at the very top of the game. And okay, it's a different level and all of that, but it's almost not about the level at times. Sometimes it's about the attitude and the belief to actually go out and, you know, put yourself in a position to give yourself success. Because like that in every walk of life, I suppose, not to get fucking philosophical here or anything, but like sometimes we're knocked down and we get back up, but we're not fully running when we get back up. For Solomon, you could see he was like believing you're going to win can be a good thing and a bad thing, because sometimes it can make you like, what the fuck? Why is this lad fighting against me? Like, why am I not just walking this fight? But also it can be like, right, I'm up now. Here we go. Like, I'm just going to win this now, and that's exactly what he did. And he went out, and I thought he looked great. Again, you can't expect a title fight in Cage Warriors or anywhere else to not have an opponent. Let's put him in this way. No disrespect to Arujo, who, as you mentioned, and I said, fought well and did his best in this fight. I think he gave a good
weight, obviously. Yeah, I think
everyone missed weight. Yeah, what the fuck was going on there? They got new scale or something today. Everyone was missed weight. But he came out like, okay, yeah, he wasn't fighting for the title. That's a good point. But he came out and he tried his fucking very best to win that fight. Whereas his next fight, maybe he'd be fighting for a title. And Solomon Simon still came through that. So that Nick Bagley fight, look, we're going to talk a lot about it when it's coming around. That's surely going to headline Cage Warriors 200. And what a fucking fight. Another Irish, a champion in Cage Warriors, and it's great to see.
When you said sorry, Shawnee, you said Solomon's disappointed in that performance as well. That's a good sign as well. I know you always talk about Dara Kelly, and having that level of expectation. So, I think Solomon was a little bit hard on himself as well. And, I think, that Bagley fight cannot.
Imagine winning the title and be like, fuck's sake. Do you know? I love that. I love that. Yeah, I've said this before, there's nothing more I love in sport than someone who wins a silver medal and takes it off and like fucks it on the ground or something. I love that's a winner. Like that's a winner every single fucking, and like Solomon got the gold medal and he was like, that's even better. The rest of Cage Warriors then, a pretty good night for, I suppose, the main guys in Cage Warriors. Jordan Vucinic had a tough fight against Tarpal Marjev in the main event, but got through it and ended up winning the decision there. Look, he's going to be in Cage Warriors for a couple of more fights, and I don't think there's any issue with that. I would love to see him fighting over in Ireland if that was possible. Joanny Scott got back with a win as well. He won late in the second round, so he's going to be in title contention again. Ali Sweeten Sauare beat Thomas Granval. Terrell Peck had a good win. Thomas Paul lost. He got KO'd with a lovely punch to the body. And one bad result for Irish MMA. Kieran Brady got knocked out by Kadeem Perkins, and one of the knockouts of the year, an unbelievable knockout. But as we talked about Kieran Brady last week, he'll be back again. That was a tough loss against a good fighter, very even matchmaking. I think we talked coming into that. So sometimes that happens as well, where you come up against a guy in a night that maybe has taken a jump to the next level, and Perkins certainly looked like that. He had obviously a very good performance before he got the big knockout. So that was Cage Warriors. As I said, the amount of weight losses, the card, what was it, only 7 fights in the card in the end, an absolute mad one. But sure, look, again, as they say, Ian,
sometimes these things happen in MMA.
All right, everyone, we will leave it there. Shout out to Troy Parrott. Shout out to the boys in green, Dominic Sabaslai. Your boys took one hell of a beating. We probably still won't get we probably still won't get through to the World Cup, but sure, look, these things happen in association football anyway. Ronaldo as well, you fucking prick. Is it great to be able to hate Ronaldo now after years of like saying, oh, he's better than Messi, you know, lying as Man United fans, to now be able to say he's actually not better than Messi. Messi's like a clearly better player than him, and he's a fucking prick. It was also great to watch a game where you could hate Diogo Della without feeling bad about it. Like, as Man United fans.
No, I fucking hate Diogo Della even when he's playing for Man United too, and I don't feel bad about it.
I feel bad about it because he's playing for Man United, but I felt good about it when he played for Portugal. But we will leave it there. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. If you haven't signed up to Patreon, now's a good time. Patreon.com/SevereMMA podcast. If you haven't subscribed to the SevereMMA podcast, please do. Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes, whatever you call it, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcast, search SevereMMA podcast. The Owl Triangle as well, out every second Wednesday. Subscribe to that on all the same places. That's on the SevereMMA YouTube as well. Subscribe to the SevereMMA YouTube where you can watch this video. At O'Neill MMA over on Twitter, at Sean Sheehan BA, at SevereMMA, at SevereMMA Pod. Follow us on Instagram. Please subscribe. SevereMMA.com. We'll see you all next week, lads. Good luck.